Hello, my dear friends of good design. Welcome to the Illustrator Challenges. My name is Julia Vaca and I'm your host. Welcome, everybody. I hope you have started this week out really well. And today we're going to be looking into one of the amazing skills that you can gain as a designer, and that is print and packaging design. So today we're going to be setting up a file for a packaging. So this is going to be super exciting, and welcome everybody in the chat. Let me know where you all are from, and let's start a conversation. Feel free to ask questions and just have a chat and learn together. Awesome, friends. So let's jump right into this, and you can start by looking into this description below. There you will be able to find a starter file that I have set up for you, and this is what that starter file looks like. So we are going to be designing packaging today, and the exact exercises: design a packaging dieline for a product of your choice using shapes and outlines. And here you already have kind of thinking of how will this packaging look like, right? Whenever you see a packaging box, and today we're going to be designing a very simple box packaging. So whenever you see a box, it has 6 sides, right? And then we have some additional elements like those flaps, but technically every packaging that's made of cardboard or any other material that's a rectangle or cube packaging has 6 sides, and then plus some additional flaps that will be able kind of to help to close the packaging. All right, so let's jump right into this, and I wanted to share some first tips of how to actually understand packaging and how to how to learn it quickly by just simply looking around whenever you go to the store or whenever you buy a package. Whenever you buy something, just take that packaging and just undo the seams and just lay it flat. So this is basically how we want to imagine this. And what I do is in my design work, I actually collect some of these packagings, and you can see there are some laid out flat, and I stick them basically into a book where I can then use them as a reference. And here another one, that one was from a hair product right here, and you can see again we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and then 1 and 2 kind of sides that are covering the whole area, and then we have some additional flaps that basically help that that main flap stick inside the box, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. And you can feel free to select what type of size of the box you want to have. You can simply draw out some rectangles on a paper and imagine the size of the box, and please measure each side and then create rectangles for each of those sides within this Illustrator file. And I'm also going to show you how to set up layers for print design. Okay, and so what we have here is an artboard, right? So this is the area that we're going to be working on, and this is just some additional elements that are outside of our work area, right? So whenever we export, we actually export only this square artboard, but we can also of course make it a little bit more longer by going to the artboard tool, and we can simply pull it to the side and do that. Now you might wonder how you actually measure things and how you transfer them exactly into Illustrator. And what we can do here is we can go to Illustrator, Preferences, Units, and here we can select the general measurements, and here we can go into inches. If you're located in the US and you like working with inches, feel free to do that. If you're in Europe and you want to use centimeters, you can do that. So whenever we select one of these measurements, and here we're going to also select the same for the stroke, and the type can be in points, that's totally fine. Okay, and now if we select the rectangle tool, we're going to click on it and we're going to double click, and now we can create a rectangle exactly in those inches that we want. So my packaging will probably be like 3 by 5 inches, and you can also draw that on the paper and draw out if that's actually a realistic packaging dimension, right? Because we want to create something that's more or less realistic, so we understand how, you know, the elements go on the packaging. All right, so the width will be 3 inches and the height will be 5 inches, all right, from my packaging. And now we have this exact measurement, so I would not resize this rectangle because this represents the exact size of the print. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to swap the outline with the fill, and like that. Okay, we have to select the rectangle first, of course, and then we're going to make it an outline so that we can create the base of our packaging, and then we're going to create the additional elements. Okay, so, and by the way, the layers. So the layers panel, right now we are only on one layer, but we can create multiple other layers. One layer only for the artwork, one layer for the cutting lines, and one layer for the die line, which is basically, or the bleed, sorry. So the bleed basically reaches a little bit outside of our cutting line so that the print goes a little bit beyond of that, okay? So let's say this is the main layer one. Layer one is just, let's say, the die line. Okay, so here we have all the details for the print, for the printer. And then we can create another layer that's going to be our artwork. And the artwork basically is everything that's not the die line. So we're creating these lines for orientation where to put our artwork. And then on a separate layer, we're going to put the actual artwork. So the color of the background, all the typography, maybe some illustrational elements. So whenever we're working in a die line, we're going to make sure that we are located in the die line layer. And then we're going to start and put the artwork on top. But the good thing is that we can pull the artwork layer at the bottom so that we can still see the die line on top whenever we're placing the artwork in. And you can always also lock the layers. So whenever I'm working in artwork, I'm going to lock the die line so I don't distort it or change it unwillingly. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Option, hold and drag, and I'm going to create another side. And you can see we need 4 sides and we need 2 more for the closing, right? So for the product flaps to close. All right, so we have 4 sides just like that. Of course, it doesn't have to be perfectly the same length on all sides. Some packaging has the front and the back one dimension, and then the sides are maybe a little bit less wide, right? So they will be a little bit smaller. So just imagine how this kind of comes together when you fold it, right? So this side and this side would be opposed to each other, right? So it will be front and back, or the 2 sides. And the same also with these two. So these two would also be opposed sides. So sides that will be either on the side or front and back. Okay, so let's move this a little bit to the middle, to the center over here. Now, what are we missing? We are missing the other 2 sides. And we can put them one right here and one right here. There are different types of packaging, so there are different techniques of how the packaging opens, right? So think about that as well, and whatever you think would work the best. So now we have the length here being 3 inches, and the length here also being 3 inches. That means this side will be 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, right? Because all of the other surrounding sides are all 3 inches. So we're going to use the rectangle tool again, double click, and this time we're going to do 3 by 3 inches, okay? And now we're going to click the letter V for the selection tool, and we're going to place it just here. Now let's create a copy of this one, holding Option, and you can either place it here or here. Just make sure that the technology will work of this packaging. And you can do that simply by printing out this die line, cutting it out, cutting around it, and putting it together and gluing it together and creating a prototype of your packaging. Okay, so we have this. And now if we look at this packaging, we can see that there are some extra flaps. So this one, we have a little piece that's a little bit over the rectangle. And same here, we have 1 and 2. Oops, sorry, it's a little hard to navigate. And one extra little piece up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first extend these 2 long flaps, and then we're going to add some of the flaps right here, right here, right here, and right here. And then we also need a little piece here to help us basically glue the end with the beginning, right? So let's start with that. And that is very simple to make. We have to create a rectangle, and you can select, you can basically imagine what approximately will be the size of this. And I'm thinking probably around something like that. Now we're going to use the direct selection tool, and we're going to select one of these points, and the other one, let's see if we can make it. Let's see. All right, so let's just use the direct selection tool and select one point, move it closer to the middle, and the same thing we're going to do here, just move that one closer to the middle. And right now this is very approximate because we're doing this very quickly, but you can totally be way more precise with that. Okay, so we need that extra thing right here, and we can also round the edges here using, again, letter A, and we're going to hold Shift and select the other corner, and we're going to round it to maybe 0.115 inches. Okay, now that looks like a proper flap, and we're going to simply copy and paste it so we don't have to recreate it, right? We're going to click on the flap, hold Option, and we're going to place that right here. And of course we have to turn it around, and I'm holding Shift while turning it around, so it gives me perfect 45 angles to snap on. Okay, now I'm going to place it right here to my other side, just like that. All right, so my friends, who is with me today in the chat? Welcome everybody. Welcome. Come say hi, and feel free to ask your questions. We have Arturo, Afroja, Aaron here, Kimberly, cool, Robert. How do you draw the folding margin? Yeah, so that depends on the thickness of the packaging. If the cardboard is really thin, you only account maybe point something inches in between. If the cardboard is thicker, you will have to kind of place these a little bit to the side to think about the margin, but it always depends on the paper. And we're gonna go very simple today. So this is a very simplified version of our packaging, okay? All right, now we are missing these 1, 2, 3, 4 extra flaps, so that basically this thing here, so this flap can kind of go into the packaging and get held by them, right? So there will be little kind of cutouts right here on the sides that will help this flap kind of stick to those 2 flaps that closed before, right? Okay, so let's create those, and make sure to not make them longer than the sides, right? Because otherwise they're not going to fit into the packaging. So we're going to use the pen tool, and we're going to create something from here, let's say to here, to not so long, and then we're going to go in and make that slightly tilted here on the side, something like this. And you can totally look at existing packaging, and you can get yourself kind of the inspiration of how to put that together. So basically this is what that looks like, and make sure that it has the exact size of the side, and that it's not longer than this side, right? Because otherwise the flap is not going to fit into the packaging. Okay, so that, and we have a little detail, a little cutout, so that when the flap closes, it doesn't interfere too much with this corner right here. So we're going to add another point right here by using the pen tool again, and we're going to add a point to this path, just like so. and we're going to use A for our direct selection tool, and we're going to put this anchor slightly to the side, and we're going to match this one with the line right there. So just like that. Okay, and now we're going to take this and we're going to place that right here. And now you can see we have some space that we've created, so this flap is going to go in easy and it's not going to kind of crease the corner here. So now let's create the same thing, holding Option, clicking and dragging. We're going to create this side. Now of course we have to flip this around, right click, transform, reflect, and then we're going to vertically reflect. Okay, now we have these two flaps already done, and let's copy and paste them by selecting, holding Shift and selecting the second one, holding Option, clicking and dragging down, and now we're just going to turn those around just like so. And we're going to place them exactly in the opposite direction from the other ones and exactly reflected. Okay, so now we have that. The only thing we're missing now is a little glue section right here, and for that we can again simply grab the pen tool, and you see this purple line or the pink line popping up, and that means we are located at the exact height of that box. Okay, we're going to click here, we're going to drag all the way down. You can hold Shift so the line is perfectly vertical, and now we have this other pink line popping up showing us, hey, you've reached the exact height of the box. Okay, clicking again, then we're going to hold Shift, or actually we don't have to hold Shift because we have to create a little angle right here. Let me zoom in. So a slight angle so that when this flap glues in, that it doesn't interfere with the other sides of the packaging. Okay, now we're going to go up all the way holding Shift, and we're going to click right before the end. Okay, and then we're going to connect, and see the circle that comes up next to the pen tool? That means that we're perfectly kind of closing up this exact shape. Okay, now what we can do is we can use the selection tool, direct selection tool, click on this point, and expand this a little bit if needed, because you can see this packaging is quite wide, so we might need a little bit more kind of space to glue to the other side. Okay, now we're back in the regular selection tool, and I'm going to place it right next to this. Okay, so we have our cutting lines now, so that basically the surrounding line is what's going to be cut out. And what we can do is we can select all of these objects, go to Properties, and click to unite. Okay, so now we have the perfect cutting line for the printer that's going to be basically cut out from this big piece of paper. Now we have this cutting line, and that's going to be a source for us to create the die line. In a professional packaging, you will also see folding lines, and those will be shown in red. So we can add those as well by using the pen tool, and we can imagine it's going to be somewhere here to here, right? And we can make the line red. So we're gonna go and select red right here, just like so. And we can simply copy and paste this line because all the measurements are the same. Holding Option, we're going to select that and put that here, and then there's another fold right here. Just imagine where all the folds basically go, and another fold right here. And we have more folds, and let's copy and paste these right here. There we go. And this red line, there is no fold right here, so we can simply take that and use that on the other side instead, just like so. Yeah. All right, so, and I see some imperfection here, and that's probably because we are missing a little piece here of the cutting. So we can go in again with a pen tool and create a little one more basically cutting line for this one, just like so. Okay, and you can make that for all of the sides where you have this interference of the flap. All right, so, and now we're missing the vertical line, so I'm going to copy and paste one. I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to place that right here and make it longer. So I'm going to pull that in till the end of the box. And the same thing I'm going to do, holding Option, holding Shift. I'm going to move this to the other sides and kind of bring the folding lines into that. All right, so we have the black line being cutting line and the red lines being the folding lines. And you can also create an agenda for the printer saying exactly that. So the black line is the cutting line and the red line is a folding line. Now you can see we have those two separated, and that's something that we definitely need to have, because we're going to copy this outline right here by clicking Command and C. Now we're going to go into our other layer. There we go. And we're going to go into artwork, and we're going to paste in place. And you can either do that by edit, paste in place right there, or clicking Command, Shift, and V. Okay. Now we have this outline, this black outline pasted in the artwork, and we're going to create an outline of that outline to create this overprint that we need to provide to the printer, so that whenever the cutting is not very precise, they still have some space to work around it. And that I do by going into stroke, and I'm going to make the stroke go outside. So the stroke is not going to be distributed to the middle, to basically to the inside and the outside, but it's only going to be going to the outside. And my stroke, I'm going to be making it 0.125 inches. In millimeters, it will be 0.3 millimeters, I believe. All right. And now I'm going to click Enter, and now we can see I have created this outline that is going to be my extra space for that artwork. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Object, Path, Outline Stroke. Now I have outlined my stroke, right? You can see that here. And I can go in and remove the inside. So I'm going to double click into the inner line, and I'm going to click Delete. Now we have this perfectly filled shape, and we can go in and make it a different color. Maybe our packaging is going to be a light gray color. Okay, so now we're gonna go back into the layers. Okay, we're in the isolation mode. Let's go back. Let's make sure our die line is or our bleed line is located perfectly, and the bleed line is already part of the artwork, so it's basically the background color of our design. Now we can make some really fun stuff with this. We can maybe put in some gradients, some cool stuff, and we can also write in some information, maybe ingredients and so on. Now I see I forgot one line right here, so I'm going back to layers. I'm going back into my die line. I'm going to lock the artwork, and I'm going to place this red line here again. Hi, Blondie. My dog is also interested in designing. Hey, come on, come sit. Okay. Yeah, so, and she's seeking a lot of attention right now. Okay, so basically we're going to place this line right here just because we were missing it. And now we're going to unlock the artwork, and we're going back into the artwork, and we're going to lock the die line. Okay, so, and now we can make this packaging and use that, select basically the outline right here from the artwork, which is the bleed, and we can use the letter I and copy this color, for example, whatever color you want in your packaging. And then I've also provided this logo for you just to experiment with. So we can click Command, Option, and 2. And we can select this logo. I don't know why it's not being selected. Let's see. Is it still locked? Oh, okay, I see. So it's located on the die line layer that we have locked. And so now we can unlock the die line layer, and we can use the Pure Box logo, and we can make it like a larger size, maybe, I don't know, whatever you prefer, and kind of simulate what the packaging will look like. Okay, So maybe put some artwork here, but make sure to not go too far into the edges, maybe something like this. And feel free to improvise, feel free to create some packaging design for your packaging. And at any time you can preview this without the die line as well by making it invisible by clicking on the little eye. And you can see now that we put our logo by accident into the die line layer, so we have to take the logo, Command C. Now we're going to remove it with delete, and we're going back into our artwork, and we're going to click Command Shift and V and paste it in place. Now you can see that the artwork layer has a red outline, right? So whenever we don't know where exactly our object is located, we can simply look at the outline of when we have selected it. All right, so I would like for you please to experiment with this and create your own packaging, and you can also make the die line invisible. And whenever you print, you can also make the die line invisible and then simply cut out the edges approximately. Of course, you might not have the exact printer technology, but this is how I set up my files for packaging. And then there might be an extra layer for some varnishes like spot gloss and so on, so that will go on a separate layer. And another thing to mention is that whenever you work with Pantone colors and each color has to be printed by itself, you have to put all the colors in all the different layers. So those are just like fine-tuning things for your packaging work. But this is the basis that you can start with, and you can print this out and you can have fun kind of putting together your first packaging, and just explore and also keep your eyes open whenever you go to the store. All right, my friends, I will see you for the next creative challenge in Illustrator, and see the description below for our amazing community chat, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.